Professor Allen finished the impossible equation. He turned to the 100 freshmen, their hope flickering out before he spoke.
This equation cannot be solved. It is a monument to human limitation. Accept that now or break yourselves against it. A lesson in humility. You will never solve this. You are not meant to. Know your place.
Professor, maybe it's not unsolvable. Maybe we've just been too afraid to keep trying.
The right approach? Do you imagine you see something that centuries of geniuses missed? Sit down.
From the back row, a woman in a worn cardigan stood, glasses, chalk dust on her hands. The room shifted, suddenly aware of her.
Excuse me. That equation can be solved. If you'll allow me, I would like to try.
And who are you? The substitute. Sit down before you embarrass yourself in front of my students.
She didn't argue. She simply walked down the aisle, past the frozen students, and picked up a fresh stick of chalk. No one breathed. The chalk felt lighter than air. 10 years of silence hung on that single stick, and then she raised it to the board, 30 minutes earlier. Ruth Myers climbed the steps of the mathematics building, a substitute assignment in her pocket and a decade-old ache in her chest. A poster stopped her cold, Professor Allen's face, his new book, and the citation, based on the groundbreaking Erickson convergence. Her hand tightened on her bag.
They still cite me, but they don't know where the words came from.
She found the lecture hall and slipped into the back row just as Allen began his performance.
Same arrogance. Same dismissive tone. I swore I'd never set foot in a room like this again.
For 20 minutes, she watched him reduce the freshmen to silence, their questions crushed before they could fully form. He wrote an equation so dense it swallowed the board. Then he called it unsolvable.
That equation. I know it. I solved it years ago, alone in my apartment, when I still believed the work mattered.
A girl raised her hand. Her voice trembled. Allen cut her down, and her shoulders folded. Something in Ruth's chest finally snapped. And then she was on her feet, walking toward a confrontation she'd avoided for 10 years. Ruth pressed the chalk to the board. The first symbols appeared. Swift, certain, precise. The room grew still.
What do you think you are doing? This is not a game. Step away from my board.
She didn't turn. The chalk continued to move. Equations bloomed under her hand.
I said, stop. Do you understand the consequences of mocking this institution?
Ruth traced a tight integral, the solution skeleton emerging. A student in the third row leaned forward.
You cannot just skip convergence conditions. That's exactly where every attempt fails.
20. Students were now on the edge of their seats. Someone whispered, "She's actually doing it."
Let them watch. Let him fume. The truth doesn't need permission.
Where are you pulling this from? This is an undergraduate material.
Allen's voice had lost its command. The equation now covered half the board, and every eye in the room followed her hand. Ruth's hand moved faster now, the elegant strokes of her chalk a silent argument against Allen's disbelief.
There, that transition. You've assumed uniform convergence where none exists. You've just invalidated the entire approach.
Lemma 4.2. The Weierstrass M-test guarantees uniform convergence on closed intervals. The assumption holds.
She didn't even glance at him. The proof advanced another line, and Allen's finger, still aimed at the board, slowly curled back into his palm.
That's correct, but she's a substitute. A substitute who knows advanced functional analysis better than my postdocs.
A ripple of whispers spread through the rows. Students exchanged glances, some already pulling out phones to record.
Almost there. If he had done the work himself, he'd see this leads directly to the solution. But he never did.
That still doesn't. You can't bridge to the final integral without the boundary terms canceling, and they don't. This is sloppy.
They cancel because of the imposed symmetry condition. Check the original constraints of the problem.
Allen opened his mouth, then closed it. For the first time in the entire hour, he had no retort. The class watched him, and he felt the weight of every stare. Ruth drove the solution into a dense thicket of nested integrals. Her chalk never slowed, each line spilling into the next like she'd walked this path 1,000 times.
This sequence, I've seen it before. Not in a textbook, on a coffee-stained preprint. Whose work was that?
Now apply Green's theorem to the outer boundary. The residues collapse into a single harmonic term.
Jenna pressed her fingers against her mouth, eyes shining. Across the room, despair was turning into something else entirely.
This isn't standard pedagogy. This elegance. I've seen this approach before.
Chalk dust hung in the air like a fog. The proof had entered its final phase, and the room leaned in as one.
I know this hand. The way she loops the integrals. It's the same hand that wrote the paper that made my career.
She's doing it. She's actually solving the unsolvable equation.
Alan took a half step toward the board, his hand lifting as if to erase it all. But he stopped, paralyzed by a memory he'd buried a decade ago.
The way she writes the integrals. I know that hand.
This integration requires a variant of the Erickson convergence. It's the only way to close the domain without singularities.
The name hit Alan like a physical blow. His spine straightened, and for a full second, he stopped breathing.
Where did you hear that term? That work is not public. It was never distributed outside a handful of collaborators.
I read the original paper, Marie Erickson's manuscript, handwritten with the corrections still in the margins.
She's seen the original. That manuscript was never digitized. Only a handful of people ever saw it.
The freshmen didn't understand the name, but the sudden hush told them everything. Even the air in the room felt thinner.
How? That paper was never published. The author disappeared a decade ago. Who gave you a copy?
I have my own copy. I've had it since the day it was written.
That would mean she's number. It's not possible. She left. She vanished.
For the first time since she'd picked up the chalk, Ruth stopped writing. She set the chalk down and turned to face him fully.
You stole that manuscript. That's the only explanation. Academic theft is grounds for immediate dismissal and criminal charges.
I didn't steal anything. I earned it. Every page, every correction, every sleepless night. It's mine.
She's not a thief. She's a better teacher than you'll ever be, and we've only known her for 5 minutes.
If you don't leave this board immediately, I will have security escort you out and file a formal report with the dean.
Ruth ignored him. She picked up the chalk and wrote the final integral. The board was almost full now.
Let her finish. Don't you want to see if she's right? Isn't that the whole point of science?
This is not a democracy. I will not have my lecture turned into a circus. Security is on their way.
The students didn't budge. A dozen phones were raised now, recording. Jenna was still on her feet.
He's not calling security. He's desperate. He knows what comes next, and he's terrified.
Ruth wrote the final line. The board was complete. She laid down the chalk, and the room fell into a silence so deep, Alan's ragged breath was the only sound. For 3 full seconds, no one moved. Then a single student, Jenna, brought her hands together. The sound cracked the silence like a stone through glass. Then the row behind her joined. Then the entire right section. The clapping swelled, uneven and electric, and students began to stand.
That is enough. You have turned this classroom into a sideshow. This is not a victory. It's a farce.
Ruth simply stood there, the chalk still in her fingers, her expression unchanged. She didn't gloat. She didn't retreat. Alan lunged forward, his heels loud on the wood floor, and snatched her wrist hard. The chalk snapped in her palm.
You've humiliated me in front of 100 children. I will have your teaching credentials revoked by the end of the day.
Let go of my arm. You've already lost. Don't lose what little dignity you have left.
Her voice was soft, but it cut through the cheers like a scalpel. Alan's grip faltered, his fingers loosening against his will. The students were still on their feet, phones still recording. One word from them, and this would be on every social feed by lunch. Alan's chest heaved. The equation loomed behind them, complete and irrefutable, and he had nowhere left to hide. Ruth twisted her wrist free and reached down to the worn leather bag at her feet. She pulled out a folded, coffee-stained manuscript.
You said I stole this. Here is the original. Check the ink, the corrections, the handwriting in the margins.
Alan snatched the paper. His eyes darted across the ink, then to the board, then back again, wild, frantic, uncomprehending.
The handwriting, the loop on the integrals, the stroke on the Greek letters, it's identical. This cannot be happening.
His hands began to shake. The paper rattled as he held it up to the light, comparing it line by line with the chalk on the board.
This is impossible. I've kept this manuscript in my desk drawer for 10 years. No one else has a copy.
Ruth folded her arms, chalk dust still on her cardigan. She didn't blink. She didn't smile. She just waited. A student's phone clicked. The video was still running. Every detail of Alan's crumbling face was being captured. The paper slipped from his fingers. It fluttered to the floor, landing between them like a dead leaf. Alan stared at it, then at Ruth, then at the board. His mouth opened, but no sound came out.
You are Marie Erickson. The author vanished. No one met her, but it's you. It's always been you.
Yes, I am Marie Erickson. I wrote that paper 12 years ago. The work you built your career on is mine.
The room erupted. Not with cheers, this time with something sharper. Disbelief and vindication all at once.
If you are Erickson, why did you vanish? Why leave academia to become a substitute teacher in a backwater department?
I left because men like you stole my work. They cited me, then erased me. You built a career on my silence.
A low murmur rolled through the tears, then sharpened into jeers. A student near the back shouted, "Fraud," and the word caught fire.
I cited you. I gave credit. The field knows Erickson's name because I put it on my publications.
Jenna was on her feet, fists clenched, eyes blazing. She wasn't cheering anymore. She was demanding justice.
You cited a ghost. You never cared who Erickson was. You just needed a name to justify your shortcuts.
Alan's shoulders slumped, the booze washed over him, and he stood alone at the front of a room that had turned against him completely.
Even if you are Marie Erickson, you abandon the work. It's public domain. You have no rights.
Public domain doesn't excuse fraud. You misattributed convergence results that don't exist in any other literature.
If you pursue this, I'll make one phone call. You'll never teach again. Every department will know your name as a troublemaker.
The students didn't let the threat land. A wave of angry shouts rose from the tears, drowning him out.
You can't blacklist her. We'll tell everyone. The video's already posted. Your career is over, not hers.
Alan's face drained. Over 100 phones had been recording. The evidence was already escaping this room.
You have to fight this. Don't let him win. Not again. We almost believed we were too stupid to understand.
I could walk away again, but if I do, I prove his point, that people like him always win, and students like Jenna keep paying.
The room held its breath. Alan waited, the booze dying into an expectant, electric silence. Ruth drew a slow breath. This wasn't about her anymore. It was about 100 freshmen who had just learned the unsolvable was a lie. Ruth looked out at the sea of young faces, tired, afraid, but now defiant. They needed something concrete to hold on to.
I won't be silenced again. You will issue a public correction in every journal that cited you, no exceptions, and you will fund a scholarship. For the students you told they couldn't make it, the ones you've crushed in this very room.
You think I can just fund a scholarship on my salary? This is absurd.
The murmuring students weren't angry anymore. A fragile hope rippled through the tears, unfurling like a fist.
That is my price. Agree to both, or I take the original manuscript to the ethics board this afternoon.
She has the original. If that manuscript reaches the board, my career is over. There is no defense.
The chalkboard loomed behind them. The solved equation a silent judge. The room held perfectly still.
Decide, Professor. Every second you delay is another student who might believe your lie.
Alan's mouth opened, but no words came. He was cornered, and the entire room knew it.
You think I'd agree to that ridiculous demand? A public correction and a scholarship fund. On my salary, it's absurd.
But the silence didn't hold. From the third row, a single voice rose, Jenna's low and deliberate, testing if the word would shatter the room.
Scholarship.
Another voice from the left picked it up, then 3 more from the back. The word spread like fire across dry grass, leaping from seat to seat. Scholarship. Scholarship. Within seconds, 100 freshmen were on their feet, fists raised, chanting in unison. The sound shook the lecture hall walls, a percussive rhythm that demanded an answer.
This is a revolt. They've turned my own class into a jury, and the verdict is already in. Enough. Fine, I'll issue the correction and fund the scholarship. Just stop.
Say it to them. They need to hear it from you, not to me, to every student you told was too stupid to try.
Public capitulation. This will be on every screen by noon. My career is finished.
Alan turned to the sea of students. The chant died. He opened his mouth and 100 phones steadied, lenses catching the gleam of sweat on his brow.
I will issue a complete correction. The Erickson convergence was not my work. The credit belongs to Marie Erickson, to Ruth Myers.
The words hung for half a breath, then the room exploded. Not a chant, a roar, raw and uncontainable, 100 voices crashing against the walls.
And I will personally fund a scholarship for any student here who was told they couldn't understand. Starting this semester.
The freshmen didn't just cheer, they surged. Desks scraped, backpacks dropped. Jenna grabbed the girl beside her, both crying, phones still recording everything. Ruth didn't cheer, she observed. Her arms remained folded, chalk dust on her cardigan, but something in her posture had eased. A decade of tension finally uncoiling.
You did it. You actually did it. We're not too stupid. We just needed someone to show us it could be done.
Alan stood motionless, the noise washing over him. He made no move to leave, no move to speak. The equation hung behind him, a verdict in chalk.
It's not victory. It's just what should have happened 12 years ago. But this time, it's for them.
A corrections note, a scholarship. My career won't survive this, but these students, they might.
The applause showed no sign of stopping. 100 students, a single moment, and the lecture hall that had been built to intimidate them was now simply their own. The last student filed out, the door swinging shut with a soft click. Only Ruth and Alan remained, the solved equation a wall between them.
You could have destroyed me in front of them, left my reputation in ashes. Why didn't you?
Because it was never about you. It was about them. About every student you told they weren't good enough.
She gestured to the empty seats, row after row, where 100 freshmen had just learned they were not too stupid to understand.
She didn't want revenge. All these years, and I never understood what she actually fought for.
You can still be a teacher, but first, you have to learn what that word actually means.
She picked up her worn bag, the manuscript tucked inside, and walked toward the side door without looking back. Alan didn't move. The door clicked shut, and he was alone with the equation still filling every inch of the board behind him.
After 12 years, a substitute taught me what I'd forgotten. The work was never mine to claim.
The scholarship would be his penance. But the silence he'd left behind in that hall was louder than any applause. Within 6 hours, the video had 4 million views. By morning, The dean's office issued a statement promising a full investigation and formal correction. Alan sat in the dean's office, a resignation letter already signed in his hand. He placed it on the desk and walked out without a word. The correction appeared in every major journal the following week. Alan's name was removed from the Erickson citations. Ruth Myers was listed as sole author. 3 weeks later, the scholarship was announced in a quiet ceremony. Alan, visibly diminished, handed the first check to Jenna.
This scholarship is for every student who's heard they're too stupid to succeed. Thank you for proving we aren't.
Ruth stood at the back, half hidden by the doorway. She watched Jenna hold the certificate and finally let out a breath she'd held for 12 years. Jenna spotted her and ran over. She threw her arms around Ruth, who patted her back, chalk dust from the morning substitute job still on her cardigan. A bronze plaque was unveiled, Ruth Myers Scholarship Fund, for students who were told they couldn't and tried anyway. Ruth left after the ceremony, walking across campus under a cold autumn sky. She no longer felt like a substitute. The lecture hall stood empty, but the equation remained on the board, a quiet monument to the day everything changed. The formal scholarship letter arrived at Jenna's apartment on a Tuesday. She opened it alone, her coffee going cold. She read the amount. Her tuition would be covered completely. She pressed the paper to her chest and let the tears fall. That evening, Ruth found a thicker envelope in her mailbox. Handwritten, not typed, she carried it inside and sat by the window. Dear Ruth, I know you don't like the spotlight, but I had to say this. You gave me back the courage I lost in that lecture hall. Because of you, I am going to finish my degree. I am going to become a mathematician who helps others, the way you helped me. Ruth set the letter down and picked up the framed photo of her father, a professor who told her never to quit.
I did it, Dad. I finally did it for someone else.
She placed Jenna's letter beside the photo, where the scholarship plaque would one day hang, a quiet testament in her own home. The cardigan she'd worn that day still held chalk dust, but now it carried something else. Proof that she hadn't been invisible after all. The equation on the board would be erased eventually, but the students who saw it would remember forever. A chilly Saturday, 6 months later. The cafe on Elm Street was full, but Jenna spotted her immediately. The cardigan, the glasses, the faint chalk dust on her cuffs.
I ordered your coffee. 2 creams, no sugar. Hope that's still right.
You remembered. I am impressed.
I remember everything from that day. The chalk sound, the way you didn't flinch. I was ready to drop out.
You were never going to drop out. You just needed one person to stop telling you couldn't.
I needed you. Thank you, Ruth, for standing up, for the scholarship, for everything.
You did the hard part. I just held the door open.
Then I am going to become a mathematician who holds doors for everyone else. That's the plan.
Then the scholarship worked exactly the way it should.
They stayed until closing. 2 women with chalk dust and a shared secret. The unsolvable equation had never been the point. The plaque hung in the corridor now, bronze catching the morning light. Students passed it without slowing, but some touched its edge. The fund had received over 300 donations since the video. Strangers, alumni, won anonymous check for $10,000. In a small classroom, Ruth stood before a new group of freshmen. Her cardigan still had chalk on the sleeve, but now a few students recognized it. A girl in the front row leaned toward her friend, whispered, and then raised her hand. Not to ask a question, but to thank her. Ruth paused. I am just the substitute, she said, but her eyes crinkled. The class laughed. The next scholarship recipient was a single mother studying applied math. Her application letter quoted the equation on the board. From her application. When I saw that video, I realized the impossible had been done. So I applied because maybe the impossible was all in my head. Ruth walked home under a gray sky, but her step was light. She didn't need to carry the weight of her past anymore. The scholarship fund had already awarded 3 more students that year. Each one a door held open, and in the lecture hall, now quiet, the ghost of the equation still lived in the memory of everyone who had been there. In his half-emptied office, Alan opened the scholarship donation page. The total lagged behind the need. He pulled a checkbook from the drawer. His pen came down slowly, the number written without a second thought. He didn't sign his name. Just the memo line, "For the students you discouraged." The check arrived at the scholarship office the next morning. The handwriting was unmistakable. Across campus, the original manuscript had been framed and hung outside the math department. Its coffee stains were now behind glass. The plaque read, "In honor of Ruth Myers, Marie Erickson, Marie Erickson. The doors she opened will not close." Alan passed the display on his way to clear out his office. He slowed, but didn't stop. For a moment, he looked at his own hands, the ones that had grabbed her wrist in front of 100 students.
I'll never be the teacher she was, but the scholarship is still there.
He walked on. The manuscript remained, its ink an open door that would never close. Winter break. The lecture hall had been repainted, but the ghost of the equation still showed through the fresh coat. A custodian wheeled his cart down the aisle, humming something soft. He paused at the board, cloth in hand. He wiped the board in slow, practiced arcs. The ghost equation faded streak by streak by streak. He noticed the scholarship plaque on the wall. He nodded at it, like greeting an old friend. The board was clean now, no trace of the integrals or the handwriting that had shaken the room. He pushed his cart toward the door. The room was ready for the next class, the next questions, the next students who might doubt themselves. Sunlight crossed the floor in broad, patient stripes. The plaque caught a sliver of it. Somewhere across campus, a substitute teacher opened her lesson plan. She didn't need it, but she always brought it. The unsolvable equation had been solved in 4 minutes flat. But what that moment built would take decades to finish. And that was exactly the point. Early morning. The lecture hall was silent. Ruth stepped through the side door and stopped in the center aisle. She walked to the board. Through the fresh paint, the ghost of her equation still held its shape. She touched the board. Not with chalk, just her fingertips. She traced the ghost of an integral. A small smile crossed her face. Not triumph, but something quieter. Peace, maybe. She withdrew her hand and closed her fingers, as if holding the chalk one last time. She turned from the board and walked toward the exit, the morning sun spilling through the door. Outside, the campus was quiet. Dawn had just broken, painting the sky in pale orange and blue. She paused once, looking back at the building. The plaque was invisible from here, but she knew it was there. Then she walked on, into the sunrise, a substitute who had always been more than anyone guessed. In the end, the equation wasn't unsolvable. The real problem was the one nobody else dared to solve: the courage to stand up.